Far beyond the familiar skies of Earth, drifting quietly through the dark and open space of our solar system, there is a world that has fascinated human imagination for generations. A small, rust-colored planet that glows softly in the night sky. A distant neighbor that has circled the sun for billions of years in patient silence. This world is Mars. From Earth, Mars appears as a gentle red point of light, not bright enough to dominate the sky, yet noticeable enough that ancient sky watchers observed it long before telescopes existed. For thousands of years, people have looked upward and seen that faint reddish glow slowly wandering among the stars. Tonight, we imagine ourselves drifting quietly toward that distant planet. Not rushing, not hurrying, just slowly traveling through the vast calm of space. Mars rests between Earth and the outer regions of the solar system, following its own steady path around the sun. Its orbit is slightly farther from the warmth of the sun than Earth's, which gives the planet a colder and quieter character. From afar, Mars appears peaceful, a smooth reddish sphere slowly turning beneath the distant sunlight. As we gently approach, the planet begins to grow larger in the quiet darkness. The reddish color that defines Mars comes from iron minerals spread across its surface. Over immense spans of time, these minerals have slowly reacted with the thin traces of oxygen in the Martian environment, forming a rust-colored dust that covers much of the land. This fine dust gives Mars its familiar red appearance. But Mars is not entirely red. When sunlight falls across its surface, subtle shades begin to appear. Some regions are darker, where ancient rock formations rise through the dust. Other areas are pale and golden, where winds have slowly moved sand into wide deserts. White patches appear near the poles, made of frozen ice that rests quietly through the long Martian seasons. From space, the planet looks calm and still. Unlike Earth, Mars has no oceans reflecting bright blue light into the sky. There are no vast forests spreading across the land, no moving clouds of thick atmosphere drifting endlessly across continents. Instead, Mars offers something different, a quiet simplicity, a planet shaped by time, wind, and ancient geological forces. Mars is smaller than Earth, measuring a little more than half the diameter of our home planet. Because of its smaller size, the pull of gravity on Mars is weaker. If someone were standing on its surface, they would feel lighter, as though their body carried less weight. Yet despite its smaller size, Mars contains an incredible variety of landscapes. Long plains stretch across enormous distances. Gentle slopes rise and fall across deserts of reddish sand. Vast valleys cut across the planet's crust, telling stories of ancient geological activity that unfolded over billions of years. The sunlight reaching Mars is softer than the sunlight that warms Earth. Because Mars lies farther from the sun, the light that reaches its surface carries slightly less warmth. Days on Mars feel dimmer and cooler, even when the sun stands high in the sky. Still, Mars follows a rhythm that is surprisingly familiar. A single day on Mars is only slightly longer than a day on Earth. As the planet slowly rotates, sunlight spreads across its deserts, valleys, and plains before fading gently into evening. Night arrives slowly across the Martian land. Above the quiet surface, the sky grows darker. The stars appear, sharp and steady in the thin atmosphere. In that stillness, Mars continues its endless orbit around the sun. For billions of years, the planet has moved through space in this quiet rhythm, turning slowly, drifting steadily, endlessly circling the same star that warms our own world. If we were to glide closer now, descending gently through the thin Martian atmosphere, the surface would begin to reveal its remarkable landscapes. Mars is often described as a desert world, and in many ways that description is true. Much of the planet is covered in wide, open plains of dust and rock. Yet within these quiet deserts lie some of the most extraordinary geological features found anywhere in the solar system. One of the most remarkable places on Mars rises so high above the surrounding land that it becomes almost difficult to imagine. This is Olympus Mons. Olympus Mons is a volcano, but not like the volcanoes that rise from Earth's continents and ocean floors. It is the largest volcano known in the entire solar system. If one could stand far away and look toward Olympus Mons, the mountain would rise slowly from the plains, its gentle slopes climbing higher and higher until they reach an elevation far beyond the tallest mountains on Earth. The volcano stretches across such a wide area that its slopes rise almost gradually, forming a vast shield of ancient volcanic rock. For countless ages, lava once flowed quietly across these slopes, slowly building layer upon layer of solid stone. But today, Olympus Mons rests in silence. Its eruptions ended long ago. Its slopes are now calm and still beneath the quiet Martian sky. Nearby, other volcanoes rise across the region known as the Tharsis Plateau. Together, they form a line of ancient giants, standing like quiet monuments to the powerful geological forces that once shaped the planet. As we continue drifting across the surface, another feature begins to appear. A vast canyon system stretching across an enormous portion of the planet. This immense formation is called Valles Marineris. Unlike many canyons on Earth, which are carved by rivers slowly cutting through rock, Valles Marineris formed in a different way. Long ago, the crust of Mars began to stretch and crack across a wide region of the planet. Over time, these fractures widened and deepened, forming a system of valleys that stretches for thousands of kilometers. If placed across Earth, this canyon system would span the distance across entire continents. Yet despite its enormous size, the valleys of Valles Marineris remain quiet and empty. There are no rivers flowing through them today, no forests growing along their edges, only layers of ancient rock resting in peaceful stillness beneath the sky. In some places, the canyon walls rise several kilometers above the valley floor. Sunlight touches their upper edges first each morning, slowly sliding downward as the Martian day unfolds. Shadows stretch across the valleys, and in the still air of Mars, these shadows can remain unchanged for long, peaceful stretches of time. Elsewhere across the planet, wide plains spread outward toward the horizon. Many of these plains are covered with fine dust that has been moved slowly across the surface by gentle winds. Over time, this dust forms dunes and ripples that resemble the quiet deserts found on Earth. Yet Mars holds secrets within these landscapes. Scattered across its surface are patterns that suggest something remarkable about the planet's distant past. Long winding channels appear in certain regions. Dry riverbeds stretch across the land. Broad valleys widen into shapes that resemble ancient lake basins. These formations tell scientists that Mars was once a very different world. Long ago, water flowed across parts of the Martian surface. Rivers may have slowly carved channels through the soil and rock. Lakes may have formed in wide basins, collecting water beneath a thicker atmosphere than the planet has today. The idea that Mars once held flowing water adds a gentle sense of mystery to the quiet landscapes we see today. But for now, the ancient riverbeds rest empty. Their winding shapes remain etched into the surface, like faint memories of a distant past. And Mars continues its quiet journey through space, turning slowly beneath the soft light of the sun. The planet does not rush. It does not change quickly. Instead, it holds the patient stillness of a world shaped across unimaginable stretches of time. As we drift above its surface, watching the red deserts fade gently into the horizon, Mars feels less like a distant mystery and more like a calm and ancient companion in the vastness of the solar system. A quiet world, waiting patiently beneath the stars. As our quiet journey continues, The surface of Mars stretches outward beneath a calm and steady light. The landscape below appears vast and open, shaped by time in ways that unfold slowly and gently across the planet. Mars is often called a desert world, and in many ways that description fits well. Much of the surface is covered with fine reddish dust and ancient rock, forming wide plains that seem to extend endlessly toward the horizon. Yet even within these quiet deserts, the land is far from empty. Subtle shapes, gentle slopes, and distant ridges quietly reveal the story of a planet that has been slowly shaped for billions of years. The dust that covers Mars is incredibly fine, almost like powdered stone. Over immense stretches of time, winds have carried these tiny grains across the surface, gradually spreading them across valleys, plains, and low hills. This dust settles softly over much of the planet, giving Mars its familiar reddish appearance when viewed from space. In some regions, the winds have slowly gathered this dust into long dunes, forming patterns that ripple gently across the landscape. These dunes resemble the quiet sand formations found in Earth's deserts, though the colors are deeper shades of rust and orange. When sunlight moves across these dunes, soft shadows form along their curves, revealing their delicate shapes. Because the Martian atmosphere is thin, the winds that shape these dunes are gentle but persistent. They move slowly across the surface, sometimes carrying small amounts of dust across great distances. Over many years, these winds can reshape the dunes, smoothing their edges and gradually moving them across the land. Standing quietly above this landscape, one might notice how peaceful everything appears. There are no rushing rivers carving through the land, no oceans rolling against distant shores. The movement of Mars is slow and patient, guided mostly by wind and the passage of time. Across many parts of the planet, wide plains stretch for hundreds and sometimes thousands of kilometers. These plains are often covered in layers of volcanic rock formed long ago when Mars was more geologically active. In those distant ages, molten rock flowed slowly across the surface, spreading outward before cooling into vast sheets of solid stone. Over time, dust settled across these plains, softening their appearance and blending their colors into the reddish tones that define the Martian surface today. From above, these plains look almost smooth, though closer observation reveals gentle textures and scattered rocks resting quietly across the ground. Some of the most peaceful regions on Mars are known as the northern lowlands. These wide areas sit at lower elevations compared to the southern regions of the planet. Scientists believe that these lowlands may once have collected water long ago, possibly forming ancient seas or lakes beneath a thicker atmosphere. Today, however, the northern plains remain calm and dry. Their surfaces are shaped by wind, dust, and slow geological changes that occur across immense spans of time. As our quiet exploration continues, the landscape gradually begins to rise. Gentle hills appear in the distance. Low ridges form patterns across the ground. Eventually, larger features emerge, revealing that Mars is a planet of remarkable contrasts. In some places, the land climbs upward into high plateaus. In others, the surface drops into wide basins and valleys that extend across the horizon. These variations in elevation help create the diverse landscapes that make Mars such an interesting world to study. One of the most striking features of the Martian landscape is its enormous volcanoes. Earlier, we drifted past Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in the solar system. But Olympus Mons is not alone. Nearby, several other giant volcanoes rise from the region known as the Tharsis Plateau. This region forms a broad uplift in the crust of Mars, where volcanic activity once built some of the tallest mountains known anywhere among the planets. These volcanoes formed slowly over countless eruptions. Lava flowed gently across the land, cooling into layers that gradually stacked higher and higher over time. Unlike many volcanoes on Earth, which erupt along the boundaries of moving tectonic plates, Mars appears to have remained more stable beneath its surface. This allowed volcanic activity to occur repeatedly in the same regions for long periods of time. As a result, the volcanoes of Mars grew much larger than most volcanoes on Earth. Yet today, these mountains rest quietly beneath the Martian sky. Their slopes show no signs of recent eruptions. Their craters remain calm and undisturbed, shaped only by the slow settling of dust and the quiet passage of time. Beyond these volcanic regions, the Martian surface continues to reveal subtle patterns that hint at ancient geological processes. In many places, the ground is marked with small impact craters. These craters formed when small pieces of rock traveling through space collided with the surface long ago. Because Mars has a thin atmosphere, many of these incoming rocks reach the ground without burning away completely. When they strike the surface, they leave circular depressions that remain visible for millions of years. Some craters are small, only a few meters across. Others are wide enough to span several kilometers. Over time, wind-blown dust softens the edges of these craters, slowly filling their interiors and smoothing their outlines. Still, their circular shapes remain visible from above, scattered across the planet like quiet reminders of Mars's long history in space. Elsewhere across the landscape, winding channels appear once again. These channels are some of the most intriguing features found on Mars. Their shapes resemble the paths carved by rivers on Earth. They twist gently across the land, branching into smaller channels before disappearing into wide basins. Scientists studying these formations believe that long ago, liquid water may have flowed across the Martian surface. At that time, the planet likely had a thicker atmosphere capable of supporting warmer conditions. Under those ancient skies, rain or melting ice may have fed rivers that slowly carved their way across the terrain. Over time, those rivers may have collected in lakes or shallow seas, resting peacefully across the northern plains. But Mars changed. The atmosphere gradually became thinner, allowing heat to escape into space more easily. Without enough atmospheric pressure to keep water stable on the surface, the flowing rivers slowly disappeared. What remains today are the quiet traces of those ancient waters. Dry, with channels, layered sediments, wide basins that may once have held calm, reflective lakes beneath a very different sky. These features make Mars an important place for scientists to study. By examining the shapes and patterns left behind on the surface, researchers can slowly piece together the story of how the planet evolved across billions of years. Yet despite the scientific curiosity that Mars inspires, the planet itself remains peaceful and still. The deserts stretch quietly beneath the sunlight. The ancient volcanoes rest in silence. The valleys and plains hold the gentle marks of a distant past. And above it all, the thin Martian sky glows softly with a pale, muted light. If someone could stand quietly on the surface and look toward the horizon, the view would feel both vast and calm. The sky would appear slightly different from the skies of Earth. Because of the fine dust suspended in the atmosphere, the colors of sunrise and sunset on Mars can appear soft and unusual. During the day, the sky may carry a gentle orange or tan color, reflecting the dust floating in the thin air. At sunset, the colors shift slowly, forming a quiet glow that fades gradually into the darkness of night. Then the stars appear, sharp and steady in the clear Martian sky. Above the silent plains and empty valleys, the stars shine just as they do from Earth. And somewhere among those stars, the small blue world of Earth continues its own quiet orbit around the Sun. Two neighboring planets traveling through space together, separated by millions of kilometers, yet connected by the same ancient star. As Mars continues its slow rotation beneath the soft light of the Sun, the quiet deserts and valleys remain unchanged, holding their place in the calm rhythm of the solar system. A red world of dust and rock. ancient landscapes resting peacefully beneath the sky. A planet shaped by time and still waiting to reveal more of its quiet story. And as we continue drifting gently across its surface, the calm presence of Mars feels steady and unhurried, like a distant companion moving silently through the vast darkness of space. As the quiet landscape of Mars continues to stretch beneath the soft light of the distant sun, another story begins to appear across the surface. It is a story written gently into the rocks, the valleys, and the ancient sediments that rest quietly across the planet. This story speaks of water. Today, Mars appears dry and silent. Its deserts are wide and open. Its winds move dust slowly across the ground. The surface feels still and quiet, shaped mainly by the passage of time. But the planet has not always looked exactly as it does today. When scientists study the Martian surface, they often notice shapes that resemble features formed by water on Earth. These shapes appear in valleys, channels, and layered rocks spread across many regions of the planet. They are subtle, but once seen, they are difficult to overlook. Long winding valleys gently curve across the land. Some of them branch into smaller channels, forming patterns that resemble river systems on Earth. In certain places, these channels spread outward into wide basins that look similar to the dried beds of ancient lakes. These quiet formations suggest that Mars may once have been a place where liquid water flowed across the surface, not rushing violently, but slowly and naturally, just as rivers do on our own world. Many of these channels appear in the southern highlands of Mars. This region contains some of the oldest terrain on the planet, with rocks that formed billions of years ago. Over that immense span of time, the land was shaped by processes that scientists continue to study carefully. Some valleys appear narrow and winding, suggesting that water once flowed steadily through them, slowly carving paths through soil and stone. Other channels appear wider and deeper, as though larger volumes of water once moved across the land for brief periods. In some areas, the channels seem to begin high on ancient slopes before gradually descending toward lower plains. The shapes of these valleys resemble the quiet work of flowing water, slowly shaping the surface over long periods of time. Scattered across Mars are also broad basins that may once have held lakes. These basins appear as wide depressions surrounded by gently rising terrain. In certain places, the edges of these basins show layered sediments that resemble the deposits left behind when water slowly settles and evaporates. Layer by layer, these sediments can form smooth horizontal patterns within the rock. Such layers can sometimes be seen exposed along canyon walls or within the sides of ancient craters. These delicate layers are important clues for scientists. They suggest that water may once have rested peacefully in these basins for long periods, allowing sediments to settle slowly at the bottom. Over time, as the water disappeared, the sediments remained, quietly preserving a record of the environment that once existed there. Mars also contains regions where the surface appears smoothed and rounded in ways that resemble river deltas found on Earth. A river delta forms when flowing water carries small particles of rock and soil into a lake or sea. As the water slows, those particles settle and spread outward in fan-shaped patterns. Similar patterns have been observed in several locations on Mars. One of the most well-known examples lies within a crater known as Jezero crater. The shape of the land inside this crater suggests that water may once have flowed into it from nearby valleys, gradually depositing sediments in a pattern that resembles a delta. Today, the surface of Jezero crater is quiet and dry, yet the layered sediments remain, resting peacefully beneath the sky. Scientists study these areas carefully because places that once contained water may also preserve other important clues about the planet's past. Over time, the understanding of Mars has slowly evolved as new missions have gathered more information about its surface. Orbiting spacecraft have mapped the planet in remarkable detail, revealing subtle textures and patterns that were once impossible to see. High-resolution cameras have captured images of ancient valleys, layered rocks, and mineral deposits spread across the land. In addition to studying the shapes of the landscape, scientists also examine the chemical composition of Martian rocks. Certain minerals form only when water interacts with rock for extended periods of time. When these minerals are discovered on Mars, they provide additional evidence that water once existed there. Clay minerals, for example, have been detected in several regions across the planet. On Earth, clay often forms when water slowly alters volcanic rock over long stretches of time. The presence of clay on Mars suggests that water may once have existed in stable environments where these slow chemical processes could occur. Other minerals, such as certain types of sulfates, can form when water evaporates and leaves behind dissolved materials. These minerals are often found in layered deposits that resemble the remnants of ancient lake beds. Together, these geological clues paint a picture of a planet that may once have been somewhat different from the Mars we see today. Long ago, the atmosphere of Mars may have been thicker than it is now. A thicker atmosphere could have allowed temperatures to remain warm enough for liquid water to exist on the surface for extended periods. Under those ancient conditions, gentle rainfall or melting ice may have fed rivers and lakes across parts of the planet. The water may have moved slowly across the land, carving valleys, depositing sediments, and shaping the terrain in ways that still remain visible today. But Mars changed over time. The planet's atmosphere gradually became thinner, possibly due to a combination of solar radiation and the planet's weaker gravity. Without a strong atmosphere to retain heat, the surface cooled. Water that once flowed across the land slowly disappeared. Some of it may have frozen beneath the surface. Some may have escaped into space. What remained behind were the quiet traces of that distant era. Dry riverbeds, layered rocks, ancient basins that may once have held calm waters beneath a thicker sky. Even today, water has not entirely vanished from Mars. At the poles of the planet, large ice caps rest quietly through the changing seasons. These polar caps contain both water ice and frozen carbon dioxide. During the colder months, the caps grow as frost spreads across the polar regions. During warmer periods, portions of the frozen layers slowly retreat, revealing the ice beneath. Beneath the dusty surface of Mars, scientists also believe that large amounts of water ice remain hidden underground. In certain regions, spacecraft instruments have detected signs of ice buried just below the surface. These underground ice deposits may be remnants of the water that once existed more freely on the planet long ago. Though hidden beneath layers of dust and soil, the ice remains quietly preserved in the cold Martian environment. Some spacecraft have even captured images of steep cliffs where buried ice has been exposed by erosion. In these places, bright layers of ice can sometimes be seen shining faintly within the walls of the cliffs. These discoveries remind us that water, though no longer flowing across the surface, is still part of the Martian story. A quiet presence beneath the ground, a memory of the planet's ancient past. Today, Mars remains a dry and cold world. Yet the gentle marks left by ancient water continue to guide scientific exploration. Each valley, each sediment layer, and each mineral deposit offers another small piece of the planet's long and patient history. Mars does not reveal its story quickly. Instead, it reveals its past slowly, through careful observation and quiet study. Spacecraft continue to orbit the planet, and rovers explore its surface. New details gradually emerge. Yet the overall feeling of Mars remains unchanged. It is still a quiet world, a planet of wide deserts and ancient landscapes, a place where time moves slowly and the surface preserves the gentle echoes of a distant past. Above the dusty plains, the thin Martian sky continues to glow softly beneath the sunlight. And beneath that sky, the ancient channels and silent basins rest peacefully. holding their quiet memories of water that once moved across the land long ago. Mars continues its calm journey around the sun, carrying those memories with it as it drifts silently through the vastness of space. As Mars continues its slow and steady journey around the sun, the planet moves through long, quiet cycles that shape its environment in subtle and gentle ways. The Mars we observe today is calm and cold, a world where the landscape changes only gradually, guided by soft winds, drifting dust, and the passing of long seasons. Compared to Earth, the atmosphere of Mars is very thin. If someone could stand upon the surface, the air around them would feel almost like a quiet emptiness. The atmosphere is made mostly of carbon dioxide, with only small traces of other gases mixed within it. Because the atmosphere is so thin, it holds very little warmth. During the day, sunlight gently warms the dusty ground, but when night arrives, much of that heat escapes quickly back into space. As a result, temperatures on Mars can change noticeably between day and night. During the warmer parts of a Martian day, temperatures near the equator may rise to levels similar to a cool day on Earth. But once the sun begins to set, the air grows colder again, and the quiet chill of the Martian night settles across the land. Despite these changes in temperature, the planet remains calm and still. The thin atmosphere allows sunlight to reach the surface easily, but it also means that the sky above Mars appears different from the sky above Earth. Instead of deep blue skies filled with thick clouds, the Martian sky carries softer shades of color. During the day, the sky often appears pale orange or light tan. This color comes from the fine dust particles that float gently within the atmosphere. These particles scatter sunlight in ways that create the soft tones seen above the Martian deserts. At sunrise and sunset, the colors shift quietly. The sun appears smaller than it does from Earth, and as it moves toward the horizon, the sky can glow with gentle shades that slowly fade into twilight. As evening settles, the sky darkens quickly. Because the atmosphere is thin, there are fewer particles to scatter light after sunset. Night arrives sooner, and the stars begin to shine clearly above the quiet surface. In that calm darkness, the stars appear steady and bright. Phobos and Deimos, the two small moons of Mars, travel quietly across the sky. These moons are much smaller than Earth's moon, and their shapes are irregular, almost like ancient stones drifting through space. Phobos, the larger of the two, moves quickly across the sky. It orbits Mars so closely that it completes a full orbit in only a few hours. From the surface, it would appear to rise and set more than once during a single Martian day. Deimos travels more slowly and appears smaller in the sky, drifting quietly along its path. Together, these small moons add to the peaceful rhythm of the Martian night. While the sky above Mars appears calm, the surface below experiences another slow and gentle force of change: wind. Although the atmosphere is thin, winds still move across the planet's deserts. These winds are not usually strong enough to move large rocks or create dramatic changes quickly. Instead, they quietly carry tiny grains of dust and sand across the surface. Over time, these winds shape the land in delicate ways. They gather dust into dunes and ripple patterns across the ground. They smooth the edges of small craters. They carry fine particles across vast distances, slowly spreading them across plains and valleys. Sometimes these winds lift dust high into the air, creating wide clouds that drift slowly across the planet. Occasionally, these dust clouds grow large enough to spread across entire regions of Mars. When this happens, the sky becomes hazy, and sunlight reaching the ground becomes softer and dimmer. But even during these periods, the changes unfold slowly and quietly. Mars is not a world of sudden storms or violent weather. Instead, the planet moves through its cycles with patience. The dust eventually settles again, returning gently to the surface where it becomes part of the landscape once more. Mars also experiences seasons, much like Earth. This happens because the planet tilts slightly as it travels around the Sun. As Mars moves through its orbit, different parts of the planet receive slightly more or less sunlight at different times of the year. These seasonal changes unfold gradually. In the colder months, frost can form across parts of the surface, especially near the poles. Thin layers of frozen carbon dioxide and water ice spread quietly across the ground, creating bright white patterns against the reddish soil. As the seasons shift and sunlight returns, some of this frost slowly disappears again, turning directly into gas and drifting back into the thin atmosphere. Near the poles of Mars, the seasonal changes are especially noticeable. Large polar ice caps rest quietly at the northern and southern ends of the planet. These ice caps are made of layers of frozen water and carbon dioxide that have built up over long periods of time. During colder seasons, the ice caps expand slightly as frost spreads outward across the surrounding land. During warmer periods, the caps shrink again as some of the frozen layers gently retreat. The edges of these ice caps reveal delicate layers that have built up across many cycles of Martian off-seasons. Scientists believe these layers may hold valuable clues about the climate history of Mars. Each layer represents a period of time when ice slowly accumulated or retreated, preserving a record of the planet's changing environment. Far from the poles, the deserts remain calm and still. The surface continues to hold the quiet marks of ancient rivers and long-extinct volcanoes. The winds continue their slow work, shaping dunes and moving dust across the land. And through it all, Mars continues its steady orbit around the Sun. A year on Mars is longer than a year on Earth. The planet takes about 687 Earth days to complete a full journey around the Sun. During that time, the changing seasons unfold slowly across the red landscape. Spring arrives gently across the plains. Summer brings slightly warmer sunlight. Autumn spreads quiet, cooling across the land. And winter returns again to the poles with its quiet frost. These cycles repeat again and again, year after year, century after century. Mars does not change quickly. It moves with patience. Its deserts rest beneath the sky, shaped by time rather than sudden events. Its atmosphere drifts softly above the surface. Its seasons turn slowly as the planet continues its endless path around the Sun. From afar, Mars remains what it has always appeared to be: a calm, red world, a distant neighbor quietly sharing the same solar system as Earth. And as our peaceful journey across its surface continues, the planet reveals another gentle chapter in its story, one that involves the quiet machines that humans have sent across space to explore this ancient world. Small robotic explorers that move slowly across the Martian deserts, studying the rocks, the dust, and the quiet traces of the planet's past. Their presence is quiet and careful, just like the world they have come to explore. And as they continue their patient work beneath the pale Martian sky, they help us understand a little more about this peaceful red planet drifting silently through space. As the quiet landscape of Mars continues to stretch beneath the soft glow of distant sunlight, another gentle chapter of the planet's story begins to unfold. It is the story of exploration, not through footsteps or human voices, but through small, patient machines that have traveled millions of kilometers across space to quietly study this distant world. For many decades, Mars has drawn the attention of scientists and explorers on Earth. Its reddish glow in the night sky has long suggested that it might hold clues about how planets form and evolve. Over time, careful planning and patient engineering allowed humans to send spacecraft across the vast distance between the two planets. These spacecraft arrive silently, entering orbit around Mars or descending gently toward its surface. Once there, they begin their work slowly and carefully. Orbiting spacecraft circle the planet high above the surface, watching the land below with sensitive instruments and cameras. From their quiet paths in space, they map the valleys, plains and volcanoes of Mars in remarkable detail. Each orbit reveals new textures in the landscape. They observe the subtle movements of dust across the deserts. They measure the thin atmosphere drifting above the planet. They study the ice caps at the poles and watch how they change gently with the passing seasons. From this calm vantage point above Mars, these orbiters help scientists build a clearer picture of the planet's surface and its history. But some of the most peaceful explorers are the robotic rovers that travel slowly across the Martian ground. These rovers are designed to move carefully over the rocky terrain, studying the planet one small section at a time. Their movements are slow and deliberate, guided by commands sent from Earth across the vast distance of space. Each instruction travels for many minutes before reaching Mars, carried by radio signals moving at the speed of light. When the signals arrive, the rovers gently continue their work. One of the early explorers was a small rover named Sojourner. It arrived on Mars in the late 1990s and traveled only short distances across the surface. Yet even this small rover provided valuable information about the rocks and soil of Mars. Sojourner moved quietly across the land, taking images and analyzing the composition of nearby stones. Though its mission lasted only a short time, it demonstrated that small robotic vehicles could successfully explore the Martian surface. After Sojourner, larger and more capable rovers followed. Spirit and Opportunity arrived in the early years of the new century. These twin rovers explored different regions of Mars, moving slowly across plains and hills while studying the planet's geology. Spirit traveled through ancient volcanic terrain, examining rocks that had formed billions of years earlier. Opportunity explored a region rich in layered sediments, discovering evidence that water had once interacted with the Martian surface. Opportunity continued its quiet journey across the planet for many years, far longer than its original mission had planned. For more than a decade, it traveled slowly across the plains, studying rocks, dust, and ancient sediments beneath the quiet sky. Eventually, after years of patient exploration, the rover came to rest as dust slowly covered its solar panels. Its mission ended peacefully, leaving behind a long record of discoveries about the planet it had explored. Later, another rover arrived. Curiosity, a larger and more advanced robotic explorer, touched down gently inside a wide basin known as Gale Crater. This crater holds layers of ancient rock that rise gradually toward a central mountain. Curiosity began its slow journey across the crater floor, studying the layers of rock that record the environmental history of Mars. Using its instruments, the rover examines the chemical composition of rocks and soil. It studies the minerals present in the ground. It searches for signs that water may once have existed in stable environments on the planet. As Curiosity moves slowly across the landscape, it occasionally drills small holes into rocks to examine the materials inside them. These samples help scientists understand how the Martian environment may have changed across immense stretches of time. Another rover followed in recent years. Perseverance arrived in Jezero Crater, the same basin where scientists had earlier noticed the shape of an ancient river delta. This rover carries instruments designed to examine the rocks and sediments that once interacted with water. Its goal is to study these materials carefully, looking for clues that might reveal how the planet evolved long ago. Perseverance moves slowly across the crater floor, pausing often to observe its surroundings. It collects small samples of rock and soil, storing them carefully in sealed tubes. These samples may one day be returned to Earth for further study, allowing scientists to examine them in laboratories with powerful instruments. Nearby, a small experimental helicopter named Ingenuity has also flown short distances above the Martian surface. Its gentle flights demonstrate that even in the thin Martian atmosphere, controlled flight is possible. The helicopter rises quietly above the ground, hovering briefly before returning softly to the surface. Each flight adds another small chapter to the story of exploration on Mars. Together, these robotic explorers move slowly across the planet, studying its ancient landscapes and gathering information about its past. Their work unfolds gradually, just like the slow processes that shape the Martian terrain itself. They do not rush. They move carefully, observing each rock, each layer of sediment, and each subtle change in the land. From Earth, scientists receive the information sent back by these quiet machines. Images arrive showing wide plains beneath soft skies. Close-up photographs reveal tiny grains of dust and delicate layers of rock. Measurements of minerals and atmospheric conditions help build a deeper understanding of the planet's environment. Through these observations, Mars becomes a little less distant. Its deserts feel more familiar. Its valleys and plains begin to reveal their long and patient history. Yet even with all these discoveries, Mars still holds many quiet mysteries. Large portions of the planet remain unexplored. Many ancient valleys and basins still wait beneath the silent sky. Future missions may continue the work begun by the early rovers. New spacecraft may orbit the planet, studying its atmosphere and surface with even greater detail. Robotic explorers may travel to new regions, examining landscapes that have never been studied before. And perhaps, far in the future, human explorers may one day visit Mars as well. But for now, the planet continues its calm existence. The rovers move slowly across the ground. Orbiting spacecraft circle high above. The winds carry dust quietly across the plains, and Mars continues its steady orbit around the Sun. A quiet red world, an ancient neighbor drifting peacefully through space. As our gentle journey across this distant planet begins to draw toward its final moments, the calm rhythm of Mars becomes even more apparent. The deserts remain still beneath the fading light of the day. The long shadows stretch across the plains, and the small moons continue their quiet paths across the sky. Mars does not rush. It moves slowly through time, a world that has watched billions of years pass beneath the same distant sun, a quiet companion in the vast and peaceful darkness of the solar system. And as the Martian evening settles gently across the land, the planet continues drifting along its endless path through space, carrying its silent landscapes beneath the calm light of the stars. The quiet evening slowly settles across the surface of Mars. The sunlight that once stretched across the dusty plains begins to soften as the sun moves gently toward the distant horizon. Long shadows drift across the land, extending slowly across valleys, dunes, and ancient rocks that have rested there for ages beyond counting. The red deserts grow quieter as the light fades. Across the wide plains, the winds that once carried fine grains of dust through the thin atmosphere begin to calm. The air grows still again, and the landscape returns to the quiet stillness that defines this distant world. The sun appears smaller here than it does from Earth. From the surface of Mars, it glows softly above the horizon, casting a gentle light across the land before slowly disappearing beyond the edge of the planet. As the sun sinks lower, the colors of the Martian sky begin to shift. The pale orange tones of the day gradually soften into deeper shades. A quiet glow lingers along the horizon, reflecting through the thin layers of dust suspended in the air. For a few peaceful moments, the sky holds a gentle blend of colors: soft orange, faint gold, muted shades that slowly fade as evening deepens. Then, gradually, the light fades away. Night arrives quietly across Mars. Because the atmosphere is so thin, darkness comes quickly once the sun has set. The warmth of the day escapes easily into space, and the air grows colder as the night settles across the land. Above the quiet deserts, the sky deepens into darkness. Stars begin to appear, one by one. Without thick clouds or dense atmosphere to blur their light, the stars shine with remarkable clarity. They appear steady and bright, scattered across the sky like quiet lanterns in the vast darkness of space. Among those distant stars is a small blue world, Earth. From the surface of Mars, Earth would appear as a bright point of light, shining gently in the night sky. Though separated by millions of kilometers, the two planets continue their quiet journeys around the same star. Two distant neighbors moving through space, together. Above the Martian horizon, the small moon Phobos rises. It moves quickly across the sky, completing its orbit around Mars in only a few hours. Because it travels so close to the planet, its movement across the sky appears noticeably faster than the slow motion of the stars. Phobos drifts quietly overhead before slipping back below the horizon once again. Later, the smaller moon Deimos follows its own gentle path across the sky. It moves more slowly, appearing smaller and fainter against the dark background of space. These small moons add a quiet rhythm to the Martian night. Below them, the planet rests peacefully. The dunes remain still beneath the faint starlight. The ancient volcanoes stand silently on the horizon. The deep valleys and wide plains hold the quiet memory of a planet shaped across billions of years. Mars has watched a very long history unfold. Long before life appeared on Earth, the red planet was already orbiting the Sun, its surface shaped by ancient volcanic activity and the slow movement of water across its land. For ages beyond imagination, the planet has traveled the same steady path through the solar system, turning slowly, orbiting patiently. Its deserts have endured countless days and nights. Its valleys have remained still beneath the quiet passing of time. The winds have carried dust across the plains for millions of years, gently reshaping the dunes and smoothing the rocks. Through all of this time, Mars has remained what it is today. A quiet world. A calm and ancient planet resting in the vastness of space. The robotic explorers that move slowly across its surface continue their patient work. Their wheels roll carefully across the dusty ground, examining rocks and collecting small pieces of information about the planet's long history. Their instruments measure the air and study the minerals in the soil. They photograph the landscape beneath the quiet sky. Each image sent back to Earth reveals another peaceful view of the Martian world. A wide desert stretching toward the horizon. A layered rock formation standing quietly in the sunlight. A distant hill rising gently from the plain. These images remind us that Mars is not a place of noise or motion. It is a place of stillness, a world where time moves slowly, a planet where the surface preserves the memory of ancient ages. As the Martian night deepens, the temperature continues to fall. Frost may begin to form across parts of the land, especially in lower regions where the cold settles quietly against the ground. Tiny crystals of frozen carbon dioxide or water ice may appear on the surface, shining faintly beneath the starlight before fading again when morning arrives. The night passes slowly across the planet. The stars drift gently across the sky as Mars continues its slow rotation. Hours pass in calm silence. Eventually, far away on the horizon, the first faint light of morning begins to return. The sun approaches once again. Its distant glow begins to brighten the edge of the sky. Soft light spreads slowly across the land, touching the tops of distant hills before reaching the valleys and plains. The Martian day begins again, another quiet cycle in the endless rhythm of the planet. Mars continues its journey around the sun, carrying its deserts, valleys, and ancient volcanoes through the vast calm of space. The winds will return gently across the plains. The dust will drift slowly across the ground. The seasons will change gradually as the planet continues its long orbit. And high above the surface, the stars will continue to shine across the clear Martian sky. Mars remains what it has always been, a quiet red world, a distant neighbor, an ancient planet moving patiently through the darkness of space. And as the gentle sunlight spreads once again across its peaceful landscape, the planet continues its calm and silent journey around the sun, resting beneath the soft glow of the universe that surrounds it. As the quiet journey across Mars slowly draws toward its final moments, the planet continues to drift through space, just as it has for billions of years. Nothing about Mars feels hurried. Its deserts remain still beneath the soft sunlight. Its ancient rocks rest where they have rested for ages, and its thin atmosphere moves gently across the surface like a quiet breath. From a distance, Mars may appear like a simple red dot in the sky. Yet as we have gently explored its landscapes, it becomes clear that this distant world holds a deep and peaceful history written across its valleys, plains, and mountains. The red dust that covers much of the planet is not merely a surface layer. It is part of a story that has unfolded slowly over unimaginable spans of time. Tiny grains of iron-rich soil have been carried by soft winds across the land for millions of years, gradually settling into the dunes and plains that stretch across the Martian horizon. Beneath that dust lie rocks that formed long ago when the planet was far more active. Ancient volcanoes once released lava that flowed quietly across the surface, cooling slowly to form the wide volcanic plains we see today. Over time, the eruptions ended, and the giant mountains they created, like Olympus Mons, remained standing in calm silence beneath the sky. These towering formations now serve as quiet monuments to the early forces that shaped the planet. Nearby, the immense canyon system of Valles Marineris stretches across the landscape like a long and silent scar across the surface of Mars. Its cliffs and valleys reveal layers of rock that have been exposed over immense stretches of time, quietly preserving the geological history of the planet. In other regions, the land tells another gentle story. The winding channels and broad basins scattered across Mars hint at a distant time when water may have flowed across the planet's surface. Long ago, rivers may have slowly carved their paths through the soil and stone, carrying sediments into quiet lakes that rested peacefully beneath a thicker atmosphere. Though that water has long since disappeared from the surface, the shapes it left behind remain visible. Dry riverbeds curve gently across the land. Layered sediments rest quietly within ancient basins. Minerals formed through interaction with water still remain within the rocks. These features remind scientists that Mars was once a different place, a world that may have experienced warmer conditions long ago when water could move freely across its surface. Today, however, Mars exists in a calmer and colder state. Its atmosphere is thin, allowing warmth to escape easily into space. The air carries only faint winds that move dust slowly across the deserts. The seasons change gradually as the planet continues its steady orbit around the sun. At the poles, large ice caps remain frozen through long cycles of winter and summer. Beneath the dusty surface, hidden layers of ice rest quietly in the cold Martian ground. Even now, these frozen reserves quietly preserve the memory of water that once played a larger role in the planet's history. Mars today is not a world of rushing motion or constant change. Instead, it is a place defined by stillness. The landscapes are wide and open. The sky is soft and quiet. The winds move gently across the surface. And above it all, the stars shine with steady clarity through the thin Martian atmosphere. From this peaceful perspective, Mars feels less like a distant mystery and more like a calm companion in the solar system. For generations, humans have watched this planet from afar, wondering what its surface might look like. Over time, robotic explorers have slowly crossed the vast distance between Earth and Mars, landing gently on the dusty ground to study the planet up close. These small machines move patiently across the landscape, examining rocks and soil, taking photographs of the quiet terrain, and measuring the thin atmosphere that surrounds the planet. Through their careful observations, scientists on Earth continue to learn more about the history of Mars. They study the minerals within the rocks. They analyze the layers of sediment. They watch how the seasons change across the deserts and ice caps. Each new piece of information adds another quiet detail to the story of this ancient world. Yet even with all that has been learned, Mars still holds many mysteries waiting to be understood. Large regions of the planet remain unexplored. Beneath the surface, hidden layers of rock and ice may still hold secrets about the planet's past. Future missions may continue the patient work of exploration, sending new spacecraft and rovers to study the Martian environment in greater detail. Perhaps, far in the future, human explorers may one day walk slowly across the red deserts themselves, observing the quiet landscapes beneath the pale sky. But even as exploration continues, Mars itself will remain what it has always been: a calm world moving quietly through space. As the Martian day slowly fades into evening once more, the sunlight softens across the wide plains. Long shadows stretch gently across the land, touching the edges of ancient rocks and the slopes of distant hills. The sky begins to change color again, fading from pale orange into deeper shades as the sun moves toward the horizon. Eventually, the sun slips quietly out of view. Night returns to Mars. The temperature falls, and the stars begin to appear above the silent deserts. Phobos crosses the sky once again in its quick orbit. Deimos follows its slower path among the distant stars, and somewhere far away, Earth continues its own quiet journey around the sun. Two neighboring planets, each moving through space on their own peaceful paths. Mars continues its steady rotation beneath the night sky, carrying its valleys, plains, and ancient mountains through the vast darkness of the solar system. The winds grow calm. The dust settles gently across our surface, and the quiet red world rests beneath the soft glow of the distant stars. In the immense silence of space, Mars remains what it has always been: an ancient planet, a peaceful landscape shaped by time, a quiet world drifting endlessly through the calm and beautiful darkness of the universe.